Hi, welcome to the koha-US circulation SIG meeting on this beautiful January 11th day of a new year, where some of us are experiencing snow, sun, all forms of weather. So we are here to talk about circulation issues. Does anyone have any?
I don't have an issue. I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
I'm Janice with the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, and we are in the process of migrating to Bow hosting us. With that being, if our internet goes down, our site goes down. And I do remember something about offline circulation. Is that still available?
I don't use it.
There is a standalone
There is.
offline circulation tool that you can download to your machine and use it to check things in and check things out.
Okay.
In our system, I don't recommend it to our staff for checking things in because we have 50 libraries in a consortium. And when you check things in the offline circulation, it won't trigger holds, it won't trigger transfers. It just takes them out of it just removes the checked out status from them, really.
Okay.
So even if you check a bunch of stuff in, you've still got to go back through it and essentially check it in again to see what triggers a hold or what triggers transfer. But if you're just one location, that isn't an issue.
Okay, yes, we're only one location.
Yeah,
I put a link in the chat that's to a video on it.
Thank you.
and I'm trying to look up where you can download the tool from.
Okay.
Well, it looks like there's something in the manual. This might take a few minutes to find the
For
reason.
circ,
Yeah.
offline circ. I've never used it. Well, we used it, but we found that it was harder to use because I'd have to go to every computer to download everything. We'd be checking in or out on 3 computers, and I'd have 3 computers that I'd have to download everything on. And if we didn't get it done quick enough and the staff came over and started checking in or checking out, it messed things up.
Yeah.
So we literally just use, we go old school. We write them down.
Okay.
Honestly, we found that that's easier and quicker because they write it down, and then, you know, I have a stack of, we created a sheet, and I just take that and I just hand type them in, and, you know, I can type them in pretty quickly. So
Okay.
for me, that's just the easiest. We're a small library, so it works that way. But I found that offline, because you have to create the first batch you do, you have to save it into a folder, and then every time you do it, you have to make sure you save it. And if you don't save it, then those items don't go in and they don't get downloaded. And then at the end of the day or at the beginning of the next day, you have to come in and upload on every computer to get those items in. And
Okay.
it's a lot of, and, you know, like I said, we start work at 9 o'clock in the morning here, an hour before the library opens. And so if I don't get them done before the staff gets here and starts checking in, then we have a problem. So that's
Okay.
why I just hand do everything.
Okay.
And truthfully, we don't go down a lot here, and we don't lose koha a lot.
Okay. I'm praying that we don't, but we have our internet, but we go through our state information technology services agents. And so if they're down, we're down.
You're right. Right.
So, okay.
I found the link, so I'm going to put it in the chat box to the offline
Okay.
circulation tool.
Thank you.
Which that wouldn't be a bad one for somebody to demo at a conference. offline circulation is something we've never talked about at a conference. It's be an interesting topic.
That is true.
I would have to say one of the things I appreciate about Koha is the system that I used most recently before Koha. We went into offline circulation like 3-4 times a month. It seemed to go down, and Koha it's been so much more stable for me that was one of the issues that I had when I was managing the circulation at the library I was at before I came here. It was hard to keep everybody trained on how to use offline circulation because we used it so little, as compared to the other system we did before that, where everybody was an expert on offline circulation because everybody had to do it like 5 times a week, it seemed like. So
Yeah, I think in all of our years using Koha, which is from 2012, I've probably gone down 3 or 4 times, and that was usually weather related.
Okay. All right.
So the software that I used a really long time ago before switching to Koha, their way of dealing with offline circulation was a notepad. We would scan the borrower's name, then we would scan the books they checked out, and we just kept a list going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then when we got back online, we would upload that text file and it would check everything out.
Yeah, that's ours.
So, and then we
like
would
ours.
keep a separate spreadsheet for everything that was checked in, but checking in and checking out had a barcode. So like you scanned the checkout barcode and then you scanned the name, and then, does Koha have that capability, or would that be like something that would be helpful?
That would definitely be helpful. It would make it easier for those of us that have to handwrite. I just wrote development.
I was going to say,
things that. Go ahead, George.
One of the reasons that I have a lot of people that don't use the offline circulation tool is because they're at really small libraries and the people that come in don't bring their library cards.
Right.
When you're in
we
Richmond,
get that too.
When you're in Richmond, Kansas, and it's a town of 300 people and, they only get like 10 library visits a day, nobody brings their library card because the person at the library knows everybody in town. So that's one of the reasons using it there would be pointless, because it does require that people have their barcodes.
Yeah. There should be a way though that you could at least type in a name. We get the same thing. People forget their cards, or, the spouse has their keys because they're driving their car that day or whatever, so they don't have their library card. And that's where we have to hand enter something, write on a sheet of paper, but that's not many, if we could, offline needs to be better. Definitely needs to work better.
Yeah, I was in an elementary school library, so I gave every kid their card.
Yeah. I've been here for 20 years, so I know everybody.
But like, you needed to be able to do offline circulation when they were, because you weren't getting them back for a whole nother week.
Yep.
Or it was just really hard to convince the teacher, hey, my system's down. Can you bring your class for 10 minutes to check out books later this week when it's back on? That was a hard sell.
Yeah, I know. I was at a school too, so.
Speaking of library cards, do you all issue cards, or do you do the digital card? What do most of you all do?
We issue cards, but we are going to be looking at the digital. They're pricing out Aspen for us to see, and Aspen offers has the digital availability. But right, we issue cards though.
Okay.
One of the main reasons is they have to have a card to download for the Libby app, which is the online ebooks and audio. So they have to have a library card for that.
Okay. How do you all handle, like paying for copies, and do you all charge for copies of things?
Chocolate. They have to bring chocolate. We charge 10 cents a page for black and white, 50 cents for color.
So you all handle cash, or is it?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we have a cash register system that I got through Envisionware, and we run everything. We're a municipal library, so we have to keep track of everything. So,
Okay.
so I have to bring it through there. So the copies, we handle the cash, check, or credit debit.
Okay. We are a state agency, and so we have certain rules we have to follow.
Mhm.
And so when we were in our old building and we were getting ready to move to our new building, we didn't want to handle any cash.
Mhm.
So we came up with a library card, but it has the stripe. It has a track 1 and a track 2.
Mhm.
And we ordered equipment from ITC. It's a money manager. You can load money on your card. So each card is encoded with a number. So each
Mhm.
patron is really identified by their number. I just got notification from ITC that the equipment that we have is end of life.
Oh,
And
no.
they have sent me what will replace what we have. And one of the things that will be replaced is the cards, and it has the chip in it, like the debit card.
Mm.
So I am trying to decide if we want to go that route or if we want to move to the digital card.
That just sounds awful. I just have to say, like, that means you'd have to like reissue a card to everyone.
We have over 30,000 patrons.
Yeah. How do they expect you to do that? That's like, that would be impossible for us in a consortium. Like people, they take their card and they never come back. So
Right.
yeah, I can't believe wow.
Right.
I can believe it because this is a company that mostly makes stock for like credit cards and things like that that have an expiration date on them.
Yeah.
So they're not used to dealing with a business where you issue a card and it's good forever as long as you keep using it. They're used to a system where those cards expire after a certain time. Now, we don't use a digital card. Well, I have 50 libraries and some of them use a generic, I probably have one at my desk somewhere. Just we will supply them with library cards. I don't have any new ones in my desk with the new logo on them. I call it the new logo, but it's like 6 years old. What we have some libraries that issue their own library card that like has the Leavenworth, Kansas has their own library card that has their own branding on them, has their own numerical sequence for the first 5 digits. But what I've got set up in our OPAC is if you log into your account, this is one of my test patrons, so I'm logged into their account. I use some jQuery that creates this, that puts that card on their OPAC account so they can look up their account on their phone and then come in and that card is there just by looking up their account in the OPAC. They've got a card on their phone that they can scan.
Okay.
What you need to go along with that though is you need barcode scanners that will scan off of a phone. You need 2D barcode scanners, not the old 1D barcode scanners. So if your barcode scanner can scan a QR code, then it'll be able to scan this. But if it can't scan a QR code, then it won't be able to scan off of the phone.
Okay.
We might be talking, George.
Well, I was looking, I'm 90% sure that Christopher and I did a video on how to do that, but I can't find it anywhere in our list of videos. So it might be something else.
Okay.
But But I'm
Is it-
sure either that I did a video on it or I saw a video on it.
Okay,
But I don't remember which is true.
okay. I'm assuming it's a YouTube.
Yeah, and I'm looking through the video through Christopher and my videos, and I'm not seeing it here, but I'm also, geez, we've got a lot of these videos.
Yeah, you do.
So I might just be jumping over it, or he might have given it a weird name that doesn't make sense or something.
I'll ask him about it.
Or it could be a video I saw where I saw somebody do this at a conference, and there might be a conference presentation about it. So
Okay.
I put a link in the chat. Lucas has a write-up on how to do it as well, if that's different than what you do.
that might be where I stole it from. I might have gotten this from Lucas. That might be it. I'm done so many of these things I don't remember anymore.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Anyone else have one? Okay, I have a question. So I'm open. I'm hoping other people have had this problem and can answer to it. So, one of our libraries, and it's not on all of the libraries, which is, I'm in a consortium, which is also why this is kind of weird. The patron category says that they can check out 10 books. Circulation rule, 10 books. But whenever this patron checks out book number 6, it gets an error message that you have checked out more books than you can. Anybody have any idea why that's happening? Or like, I've checked the circulation rules for the library and the item type, or in the patron category. It's all stating like it should work. I don't know. It's not, Koha is not doing what we've told it to do.
I'd have to see the circulation rules to offer advice on that.
Okay. Let me.
My first guess is always when things like that happen that there's a superseding rule that that's hidden somewhere that is affecting the outcome.
Do you know where it could be hidden?
Well, the circulation rules are applied from most specific to least specific. So my guess would be that there's a more specific rule that you're not noticing.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. So this is the category for the member.
Uh-huh.
And
And then scroll left. The other left. There you go. So it's MSEA.
member.
Okay. And then go up. And there's one there that says 5 PYU linguistics.
But that's a different patron category.
Yeah.
I
So
did.
is this go ahead and go up. And this is your just at the
That's
David
the
Thomas.
library.
Okay, and then go down now to the go a little further down. And you don't have any defaults. You don't have anything set there. And then what's your all rule? It's set to unlimited. So that makes sense.
I noticed that on the rule, when you first showed it to us, only allows 6 holds. Is it possible that Koha says, if you can't have more than 6 holds, why should you be able to check out more than 6 items? Just a guess.
All right, hold on. Let me stop sharing because I'm gonna have to do his patron account to see if that works. So we're saying increase
I
the,
don't think that could be it because we allow 20 holds or 25 holds and we allow 99 checkouts.
Yeah, I
And-
don't think that's it, but is the patron just checking out things that are all on hold? No, that wouldn't even that wouldn't do that,
Mm-mm.
so. Jason turned on his camera, he must have an idea.
nope.
No, I
it's
just forgot I
still-
wasn't on. I guess one thought is like, are what's your cert control, and are you actually checking out at the right branch, or is it hitting some other library's rules? Like, is there another library's rules that has 6 as the limit, and it's somehow hitting those?
Yeah, that preference, that system preference, circ control. Circ control has 3 options. Use the calendar and circulation rules of the library that you're logged in at, the library the item is from, or the library the patron is from.
I did find a bug, but I don't know if what it's describing matches what mine is doing because it's I'm currently on 2205. And this is a bug for 2305. So unless it's just been around longer and we didn't know about it, which is highly possible.
Well, we experienced this.
Okay.
And it came from an update. There was an update from between versions. I don't remember which versions, where all of a sudden all of these values that used to be undefined. How did it work? It was if a value was undefined, it meant unlimited. And then the update changed all of those undefines to zeros, which is very limiting.
Mhm.
And so the value had been left as a null value, and then that update caused it to become a 0 instead of a null value. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember what it was, but I got all these complaints that things weren't working right because all of a sudden there was a limit of 0 on certain things. And so I had to go in and change those from zeros to put a limit there. And so I don't think that'd be it, because that would have happened during an update, and it wouldn't have affected things where there was a value there. It would have only affected things where there was a null value.
Okay. Yeah, my librarian said it's been happening for 2 years. And I'm like, I didn't know about it. Or if I did, I forgot. So, but I'm trying to figure out like how to solve it. I keep thinking it's got to be connected to a patron category and a circ role. Could it be anything else?
Is the patron's home library match the library where they're checking things out?
Yes.
And do the items that they're checking out, are they from the patron, from the same library where they're being checked out at?
Yes.
Oh, then it's a mystery. I don't know.
Lauren, this is Christy.
Uh-huh.
I just looked in our admin, our patron categories, and we have a patron category listed in the circulation fine rules that is all, but it's not actually a patron category. I could share my screen, and I'm just wondering if this would be an answer.
Okay.
Let's see. So can you guys see now?
Yeah.
So see how there's this all here? And again, these rules are probably different from yours, but, and then there's our child, and then the default item type is all. But then when I go to actually our patron categories, that's not a patron category. So I'm wondering if it's like a catch-all.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the all rule is, so if you go back to the circulation rules page and go way up to the top, as far up as you can go, right there, that in that blue highlighted area, it shows you how the rules are applied.
Okay.
And all is like if the patron, so if there is a rule set for, like, we have categories like adult and child, and we have rules set at virtually every library in our system. And so if you're at Burn and you're an adult and there's a rule set for adult patrons at Burn for the item type book, that is a library where it's the same library, the same patron category, the same item type. That's going to be the rule that catches that circulation. But if it's same library, same patron category, all item types. So let's say it isn't a book. Let's say Burn only has a rule defined for adult book for Burn, adult, and book. If you're at Burn, you're an adult and it's a book, it's going to follow that rule at the top of the list. But if it's not a book, if it's a different item type, then it's going to follow the rule that Burn has defined for all patrons and all item types. And if there isn't a rule defined at Burn for all patrons and all item types, then it's going to follow the rule set for all libraries, all patrons, all item types. So it's kind of like a filter. And the rule that it's kind of, I would think of it like an upside down pyramid. The more specific the rule, the higher up it's going to get caught in that list, and that's the hierarchy right there. So that's my suspicion, Lauren, is that there's some rule that is being matched above the rule you're expecting it to be matched at. And that's why circulation rules are a colossal pain, is because if you've got, I mean, it's so simple if you've just got one library. But then there are other things to throw in there, like Jason mentioned, the circ control is the circ rules can be, can follow the patron, they can follow the library, or they can follow the item's home library, the patron's home library, or the library where the things are being checked in and out at. Like when I worked in Idaho at Latah County Library, the consortium they're in, the rules follow the book. So the circulation rules follow the location that owns the item. So this would create headaches for our patrons because we had some libraries where the books checked out for 30 days, some where they checked out for 28 days, some where they checked out for 21 days, some where they checked out for 14 days, and some where they checked out for 7 days. So if you got a bunch of holds come in and they're from libraries that have those 5 different rules, you could send a patron home with a receipt that says this book's due in a week, this book's due in 2 weeks, this book's due in 3 weeks, this book's due in 4 weeks, and this book's due in 30 days. But here at the consortium I'm at now, it follows the rules where the books are being checked out. So it doesn't matter what the rules are in Richmond. When those books go to Leavenworth, they all follow the Leavenworth rules. And then I guess this is common. The other situation is more common, like with the people I've talked to from India, is that the rules follow the patron. So it doesn't matter where the patron goes, the checkouts follow the rules where at the patron's home library. So those are the things that I would check, would be the circ control branch, and to see if there are any rules. You would have to look at each item type that's being checked out for that patron and make sure that they're all the same item type. would be the next thing I would look at. So
One thing you could try to learn is putting in an all rule for that branch. That's how I have all mine set up. So like
yeah,
if you put an all rule in for that branch, that's like your most broad rule set for that, then that'll put a stop before it tries to go out and hit some other rule.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
So sort of, so like the all, you just make it where like all, and it's unlimited, or basically my all rule that I have for all libraries. I
Put that
copy
into that
that
branch too. Yeah.
into every branch library.
yeah, that would be, yeah. I have an all rule for all of my libraries too, and that and then I have an all rule set for all libraries just in case something falls through the, falls through all
Yeah.
the hoops. But having an all rule for each library, it'll stop at the very
Okay.
least there. So
Okay. That might work. Thank you.
or it might make things worse. Who knows?
Yeah, you can always delete it if it makes it worse, but I think that it sounds like if it's getting hit, like it's limiting you to 6 when it should be 10. So if you put in an all rule that's 10 and it doesn't limit you to 6 anymore, that's telling you that it was hitting a rule past that branch level for some reason. Tangentially related, I found this bug the other day and I want it really bad, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. Related to circ rules. Nick had talked about creating like an emergency rule tick box for rules so that they would override every other rule. I would like to see like a layer. So like we talked about the pyramid. I'd love to see a setting where we can have a layer of overrides that override everything below it. Because like right now the standard all rules are at the very bottom, but I want an all rules at the top too.
Yeah, I saw
That
this
would
bug
save me
too.
so much time and headache because we just introduced we're circulating our kits that we own here to daycares, and so I don't want patrons to put holds on, but I want orgs to put holds on, and I have to put in like 2 rules for every branch to make that work. And if I had an override, it would just be 2 rules, period. So I'm thinking about getting a quote on this one for my own sanity. If anybody else is interested.
Send me an email. Having that at the branch level would make it really easy to close branches for a temporary amount of time.
Also, I was looking at circ find rule bugs, and there's like 11 billion on validation, which would absolutely help your situation, Lauren, if we could get that, where it's like a tool that tells you exactly what rule something's hitting. And there's like a lot of bugs on that. If we could figure out a way to make that work, it would save some headache.
So
Where are those books?
yesterday I was talking to the COO about what Symphony does, which is you can specify a user profile, a item type, and in a library, and it tells you exactly which rule would be used in that situation. And that would be an awesome addition. So he jotted a note down to get back to the developers. So
I said the same thing when we migrated last February because our old system had that where it would tell you exactly which circulation rule was used at the checkout. So you could go right to it and say like, oh, that's wrong. We need to move that patron category away from there. So yeah, I've also asked for that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Mhm.
Does anybody have a bug for that?
Yeah.
Do it have the bug number for that if there is one?
I have a few jotted
yeah,
down.
if there's a bug, I will hand him the bug number and
Mhm.
There's 19. So those all seem fairly similar. They're like trying to accomplish the same goal, maybe in different ways. And that last one actually has a patch on it. But it looks like it's been stale for a while. 2020.
I have a question about self-registration. Is anybody using?
We do.
How are you?
We just have one on our website. We don't have self-registration. I think it's coming in a new upgrade.
So we have it set up to the patrons can register themselves for an account. This is another thing that I could use rule overrides for, because every branch has to have one. And that's the example I used in the bug. But I have it set where they can't check anything out, but they can put a couple holds on. And the idea being they've registered themselves, they put on some holds, those come in, they get a call, then they come into the library and fully upgrade their account. We have it set up so that those auto delete after 14 days. So if they haven't come in by then and changed their patron category from self-registered to a real category, it just goes away. It does send an email now to the staff also when someone registers, and I have it like front and center when you log in. There's a report linked up on our homepage of self-registered accounts. So staff can easily go in and manage those on a daily basis if they need to.
We do something very similar. Ours doesn't delete after 14 days, but yeah, they can go onto our website where they can register for a library card. They register, they come in, and they can place holds just like Jason's. And they come in, have to get show us picture ID and get their card, and go from there. We always check the database. We don't have it set up that it lets us know. We always check the database before we issue a card to verify. And most people come in and say, I registered online, so we know. But if we don't know, we always, if they're new, we say, do you have a library card? And they say, no, I don't. You check it and there's self-registration. So they forget, that they have it, but it sits in the database for a while.
Do either of you all have like a kiosk set up that they can self-register there before they come and get the real card or whatever? Like if you have a long line of, like we may have a group or class to come in with 25 patrons. And
We have our OPAC computers.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to sell that idea to my libraries, but I've still got a lot of public libraries wed to the paper form. Like they want a paper contract. So they're not as keen on doing that, but it's definitely easily doable, because it's just, if you're using the regular OPAC, at least it's just a form they fill out.
Yeah.
I assume Aspen's similar, but we don't have Aspen.
Yeah, we
have
same with Jason. We have the same thing. We just have our OPACs.
Here at our local public library, Lawrence Public Library, is not using Koha, but they do self-registration for all registrations. If you go into the library and you want a card, they say walk over to that computer and fill out the form. And then when you're done with that, come back over here to us. And so you fill out the form online on the computer, and then you walk over to the counter with your ID, and they pull up the account you just created through their self-registration system and verify your address and give you a library card. So that way you don't have these interactions with staff where you're talking to people at the circulation desk. This is one of the privacy issues that always bugged me when I was at the library in Moscow, Idaho, is there's no privacy. And you've got 3 workstations there, and people are going, well, this is my address, shouting it to the whole building. And this is my phone number. And this is my email address. And so that makes it a lot more private for people, is one of the things I really like about the way they do that. We did have the Koha self-registration turned on during the pandemic so people could register for cards, but we had an issue where one of our libraries was adamant that they did not want people to be able to self-register for an account at their library, because they were afraid that they were going to have thousands of people signing up for cards that already had cards so that they could download more things from Overdrive and Hoopla and jam up their system with a bunch of they figured it would be a way for people to game the system to get more downloads from those services in a month. And so I couldn't, and this director was adamant that we should not do that during the pandemic. And so we did turn it on, but we just made all those patrons that self-registered members of our library, and we paid for them for those services during the pandemic. And then we phased it out and turned it off after the pandemic was over. But I believe now you can set up the self-registration so that people can only register at certain libraries.
Okay.
But I guess that's not an issue for you because you're only one location.
Yes.
We do the same, but Janice, for classes that come in, I think we do the old fashioned way where since most children, if they're underage, need a parent's signature, that we just give the teacher, or the teachers plural, you know, a handful of papers. And if the parents want their child to sign up for a library card, we hope to get those in advance before the class visit so we can input them. Sometimes it's day of, and so we have more staff on board. But anyhow, but otherwise we do it on the OPAC in the library as well.
Okay.
When I worked at Boise Public Library, we had a class visit packet that we would send to teachers before, like a teacher could arrange for a class visit like a month in advance. And we would give them a packet that had like 25 class registration forms in it that would get sent home with the kids, and their parents would fill it out. And then the teacher would have to get those back to the library like a week before the visit so that staff would have time to enter all those cards. So that when the class came for the visit, we could either tell them, well, this child already has a card, and so apparently if they've lost it, we've created a new card for them, or this child has a card and they owe money. Maybe you should contact the parents. That way the teacher knows in advance, you know, what's going to happen. But then the students that didn't have cards, they would come to the class visit, and we would just hand out the cards for them.
Okay.
But that takes a little planning in advance, and we had to, the youth services department had to create a form that could be sent home that the parents could fill out. I think there were even options on there that says my child already has a card, or my child has a card and they've lost it, or, you know, they gave a bunch of scenarios that made it easy so when the class visit came, the cards were already done.
Okay. How do you all handle if a patron has more than one card? You know, if it may happen.
I get grouchy at them. I check the card, the most current, which ones they have holds on or which ones they have checked out. And then I delete the other one and I let them know that they already have a card and that they can't have two cards. So I go through and manage mine that way. I run a list every month or so and, you know, check and make sure that if they have self-checkout, that somebody didn't go in and just create a card and forget that they had self-checkout and, you know, do that. So I just, you know, I just delete them out.
We merge the
If-
records so no data is
I'm
lost.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. If you merge them, which one does it pick?
We don't merge
You
anymore for
pick.
some reason.
Yeah, Koha lets you pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Generally, my situation is that I will either discover a card that where there's appears to be a duplicate, or somebody will send me an email saying this patron has two cards, and they're almost always from two different libraries. But the patron's address, phone number, email, birth date, all of that's the same. And invariably, they owe money on one of them. And so I usually put a lot of notes on the card and say, you know, we need to figure out what's going on here and how to fix this problem. So my experience is that 90% of the time people end up with two cards because they don't realize that they can use the card from Leavenworth Public Library to Ottawa Public Library. And then 5% of the time and so 90% of the time it's just a mistake. It's just they don't know any better. And the staff member that was creating the second card, who should have known better, forgot to check first to make sure that there wasn't already a card in that name. And then the other 10% of the time, it's somebody that owes money at one library, thinks they can go to another library and get a card. And we end up with a lot of those situations. And then the third situation is that they were a student at a school that's a member, and they didn't realize that the card that they had at the school could be used at the public library too. So.
And we do get it a lot with self-registration, because the self-registration link is right next to the forgot your password link, and they don't click the forgot your password link. So we'll get dupe accounts, and usually those, generally they can just be ignored and they'll auto delete because we have that set up, but we just delete the self-registered account in those situations.
Yeah, we do too.
Well, and I like what Mike is saying in the chat box, that they use a separate system to generate the self-registered people. And they get this, ridiculous IDs. I do know that this is a video that we created that Christopher and I created, because it's part of what they do. They do the self-registration, and then went up until when the patron comes in, they use the overdues notice, or it might be the print slip notice, so that when the patron comes in, their city requires that they do get a paper form. So when the patron category is that self-registered category, and they print one of the notices from the print notice dropdown, it actually prints a form for them to sign. And the reason they do that is because part of the form they're signing says that says basically, particularly for child accounts, is that the library is not responsible if the child checks out something that the adult thinks is inappropriate, because the adult's responsible for the things that the child checks out. I do know that we did a video on that, but I don't know if I can find that video either, because there are too many of them.
Okay, we have a form that our patrons, we have them to sign. It's more like the do's and don'ts of the library, making sure that they know they're signing, agreeing. But it's just a printed out form, but if we could have it print out once the patron is registered, entered into the system, that would be a lot easier. So I may look into that.
We actually have that verbiage stuff on the back of our patron card. So they're signing and agreeing to their responsibilities on their own card.
We do too.
Oh, it's too long. It won't fit on the back.
Yeah, super fine print.
We are archived, so it's certain things that they can and cannot do.
Ours just says they agree to bring the items back, or, they may go collection.
Yeah, we've got 3 bullet points, so
Yeah.
it's a little shorter.
That I could find, and I put the link in the chat box there.
Actually, it should say bring them back or you deal with Georgette, but it doesn't. I can pull out my library face and library voice pretty quickly, so
Most of our libraries now are fine free, and I don't deal with anybody that comes in and tells me why they shouldn't have to pay their fines. But when I was the circulation manager at Latah County Library, that's the thing that I got sick of the most, was just being lied to all the time.
I know it. I know.
It's
We don't charge fines, but we charge for loss and damage.
Yeah. I got to the point where it's like somebody comes in, they say, I don't think I should have to pay this fine, and be like, well, give me your card, and I'd scan it and be like, okay, I forgave them all. I don't care. You know, I don't care what kind of excuse you've got. I just don't want you to lie to me. So I'm just gonna forgive them to make it easier for both of us.
I can't forgive them because municipal library, so not allowed to waive unless there's extenuating circumstances.
I just took anything. The person's breathing was an extenuating circumstance. The person's alive and asking for forgiveness. Good enough for me. That's extenuation.
Yeah. Or if we make a mistake and the book's on the shelf, we need to check it in, then I can waive a fine. That's on us. So.
It was nice having a lot of authority and the ability to do that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where out of 50 libraries, I only have 2 that are charging fines on everything. So
Wow.
I have most of my other libraries have got like things like those little internet hotspots. Most of the libraries that have those charge fines on those. And I have one library where if you want, they have a separate meeting room. The meeting room has a separate entrance from the rest of the library, so people can use the meeting room like on the weekends when the library's closed. And so the way they handle that is they have a barcode on the key, and when you want to use the meeting room, you check out the key, and if you don't return the key on time, the fine is $300 because that's what it costs to rekey the building.
Wow.
So that's their solution. That's the only thing they have a fine on, and it's a $300 fine.
Anything else? All right, I will stop the recording a little early.